Good Erev Shabbos, everybody. This week's Parsha is out of Bo. In this Parsha, we have the last of the Makkos. We have Arba Choshech and the plague of the firstborn. The beginning of the Parsha, Hashem tells Moshe, Boy el Paro, you should go to Paro. I hardened his heart. And in order that I should bring the following signs and wonders, and that you should speak of my name to you with your children and your grandchildren of all the wonders that I performed. And the verse then says, Vayovei Moshe v'Aaron al Paro. And Moshe and Aaron came to Paro, and they said to him, Ad Mosami until how long until you humble yourself before Hashem? Shalach Hamivi Abduni, send out my nation and they should serve me. Because if you don't, now you're going to see and experience the plague of the locusts that shall devastate the land, consuming anything that was remaining from the plague of the hail. Question is, by all of the plagues, we find that Hashem says to Moshe, go to Paro, lech el Paro, bo el Paro, come to Paro. It doesn't say Vayovei Moshe, and Moshe and Aaron went to Paro. They came to Paro. Shem says, go to Paro and say this. And then we find that Moshe says this. It doesn't mention that he came here. For some reason, it says, Vayovei Moshe v'Aaron el Paro, that Moshe and Aaron, they came to Paro. Why is it mentioned over here by this plague of the locusts more than any other plague? By the plague of the firstborn, Moshe tells Paro and his servants, Kachatzois halayla, at around midnight, Hashem himself is going to be revealed with all of his sanctity in Mitzrayim, and the firstborn shall die. Firstborn of every Egyptian, the firstborn of whoever might be in the land of Egypt, and the firstborn of the animals. They will all be destroyed with the exception of that of Klal Yisrael. So in the Medrash it says that when the firstborn of Egypt heard about this plague, they said to Paro, send them out. Look at all the plagues that have happened, and everything Moshe said has come to fruition, talking about our lives. And Paro himself had a firstborn son who was to succeed him on the throne. There ensued a civil war. Lamake Mitzrayim b'vcherehem, the psalmist says, that Egypt was afflicted, it was stricken with its firstborn. Not that the firstborn was struck, but that they were fighting amongst themselves. Let the Jews go. Paro's army had to put down this rebellion. And Moshe says to him, there will not be a house in which there will not be death. And there will be a tza'aka, there will be screaming and cries and hysteria in the land of Egypt as never before. And all of your servants here are going to come to me and beckon me and plead with me and beseech me, leave, go, take Klal Yisrael. It says, Vayihi b'chatzi alayla. It was indeed at the stroke of midnight, and Hashem's presence was found in Egypt, and the firstborn they perished. And the verse tells us, Vayokom Paro Malayla. Paro got up at night. King usually sleeps till a few hours in the day. Paro got up in the middle of the night. He heard the screaming. Maybe his wife was screaming, the mother of the firstborn. Maybe the firstborn was screaming. Paro got up. And Paro himself goes and he knocks on the doors of his servants, his cabinet, and all the death and everything that is taking place. And Paro himself goes running to find Moshe and Aaron and tell them, go, leave. You're no longer my nation. Go. You're free. Serve Hashem. Rashi has a very interesting comment. The verse says, Vayokom Paro Laila. Paro got up at night. Rashi tells us, where did he get up from? Where was he that he got up? Rashi says, Mimitase, his bed. That's what Rashi comes to teach us. This verse When the Torah says Paro got up, this is to inform us that he was sleeping. So the question is, what is the Torah teaching us? Who cares where Paro got up from? What is it of any importance if Paro was sleeping or Paro was playing a Monopoly? What's the difference? The Torah is that Rashi says, no, the Torah says he got up, Meimitasai, from his bed. What is that all about? And finally, just a thought, we know that today there is a biblical mitzvah at the Seder to eat matzah. There's a biblical mitzvah to say the Haggadah, talk about the Exodus of Egypt, but the food that is a biblical mitzvah is matzah. Mora today is rabbinic. The 4 cups of wine, rabbinic. Matzah is biblical. And we know we're not allowed to have chometz. And not only that, there are those who say there's a mitzvah to eat matzah throughout the entire Pesach. Might not be mandatory, but if we eat, the Vilna Gaon says, if we eat matzah throughout Pesach, we're fulfilling a mitzvah. What is it about matzah? Well, we know the Jews left, they didn't have time, but they were commanded to eat matzah even before we left. Klal Yisrael was told by Moshe Rabbeinu ba'erev teichel matzahs. This evening at the Seder, there's a mitzvah eat matzah. And that preceded our taking leave of Egypt and not having enough time for the dough to rise, which indicates clearly that there is a concept and idea of eating matzah which is independent of the fact that there was no time for the dough to rise. What is the idea of matzah? Our sages teach us that when Moshe and Aaron were told to go to Paro to inform him about the plague of the locusts, here there was a second statement that they were informing Paro. Not only were they to give warning about the ensuing plague of the locusts, but first they were to spell out to Paro what is the issue that's going on here. And this is what Hashem says, go to Paro. I have hardened his heart. True, I've encouraged Paro to follow his heart, to do what he truly wants to do. And what is it that you are saying to Paro? That's the verse that says, and Moshe and Aaron came to Paro and said to him. This coming to Paro was different than the previous plagues. The previous plagues were to emphasize the warning of the ensuing plague and Haran disaster that was to befall Egypt and the Egyptians. But this particular moment, Moshe and Aaron was sent to Paro with a different message. What is that message? So says God, the God of the Jews. Ad mosai me antale onois miponai. Until when will you refuse to humble and submit yourself, Paro, before me? Moshe is telling Paro, Paro, this is what's going on. You represent an element in humanity, call it the ego, call it whatever you want, that must be in control. You feel that if there's some higher force, there is some supreme being, then you're out of control and you don't have a purpose to exist. Your existence depends on your personal achievements, what you can create, utilizing the knowledge of science and whatever it might be, the arts and culture, engineering, math, whatever it is, man achieves. That is the definition of being a successful human being. But to submit ourselves and put aside our ego, to put aside our desire to build and achieve and accomplish, and for what purpose? So that we should acknowledge some higher force? Paro, you can't do that. You are not able to do that. That's why you've been refusing to send out Klal Yisrael. You cannot bring yourself to acknowledge that there exists a higher being, a supreme being. Until when, Paro? God doesn't want you to suffer. Until what point, what will it take until you realize that on the contrary, there is a supreme being and I am not in control? This is not my nation, my slaves. It's Shalach Ami, send out my nation, God says. These are the people of God. I don't own them and control them. I don't control anything. This was Moshe's message. Paro, we know what ails you. We delve into your psyche. We understand that you cannot bring yourself to submit before a higher authority. You rather suffer and maybe even die than to admit this. And we have come to you to say, we understand what's going on, and you need to understand what's going on. Because if you continue down this path, you will now experience the plague of the locusts that will destroy and devastate your whole land. This was the message that Moshe was telling Paro now. And what was Paro's response? Let's negotiate. Moshe said, no negotiations. God is not negotiating. Paro said, then leave. Get out. No matter what Moshe said, even after the plague of the locusts and the plague of the darkness and the Egyptians, they couldn't see, and for 3 days they couldn't even move. It must have been horrible physical, excruciating pain. Maybe they didn't eat for 72 hours. They couldn't move. And then Moshe tells them, here is the final plague. One more plague. Your firstborn will perish. One would think that would make a bit of an impression even on Paro. And yet, what does the Torah tell us? Vayokom Paro. What was Paro doing this night that Moshe told him at midnight? That's when this horrible plague, the death, will occur. What was Paro doing? Was he up? Was he praying to his gods or whatever? Paro was fast asleep. That's what the Torah is telling us. Vayokom Paro Laila. Paro got up at night. He got up from where? Rashi says the Torah is telling us he got up from bed. Paro was asleep. He was relaxed. How can you sleep? Who can sleep? There's nothing. His mind is so clear. He's in a dream sleep. He's in the REM, his eye movement, everything. How does Paro be so relaxed and sleep? The answer is, for those who refuse to acknowledge the existence of God, they live in total denial. And no matter what they see, no matter what occurs before them, no matter with the outstretched hand of God and the miracles and the signs and the wonders, it makes no difference. Their minds are closed. They don't hear, they don't see. And in their minds, I can handle this or whatever, and I refuse to accept it. Even at the life of my own son, Paro says, and of the firstborn of all my nation. Paro was relaxed. He went to sleep. The essence of the plagues were to demonstrate the greatness of God, that he's not just the creator, but he is in complete and thorough control. But it's also to enable man to recognize that our mission, our purpose for existence, is to recognize the greatness of our creator and humble ourselves and submit ourselves before him. That's what the day of Shabbos is. We work all week, we're creative, we're doing this, we're building, we're achieving, and then Shabbos comes. We put it all aside. Why? Because on this day we testify that we are not in control. Rather, we were created. 6 days we should work and achieve and build. But we should never forget who is the true master, who is the true one who is in control. That's Hashem. And that's what Shabbos is about. And that's what the matzah is about. The matzah is the poor man's bread. What is matzah? Dough, just like regular bread, doesn't rise. Put it in, take it out. Very simple. The simplest form. Flour, water, nothing else. Expose it to heat, rises a little bit, and that's it. That's it. That's matzah. Quick. Matzah is the symbol of humility and submission. And therefore Hashem gave us the mitzvah even before we left Egypt and before the dough didn't have a chance to rise. Hashem gave us the mitzvah of eating matzah. What is this mitzvah? That we should recognize that our goal is to be humble, simple, and submit ourselves before our Creator. Our Paro couldn't comprehend is that when we submit to our Creator, that's when we find true happiness and true success and meaning for our existence, an existence in this world and for the world to come. May Hashem enable us that we should see all the miracles and the wonders that God performs for us on a daily basis, especially with all of our enemies that try to destroy us every single day in the Middle East, and all the wonders that Hashem has performed for those living in Israel and for the soldiers of Israel and for those who are, thank God, being brought back from captivity. May we be able to see it, see the greatness of Hashem, submit ourselves, and then be worthy of witnessing the revelation of Mashiach. Stay safe, stay healthy, stay Jewish.